Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. I always appreciate your presence as usual. So, I have some news to share with you and updates on renewed conflict between the federal government of Ethiopia and Tigray region. Also, the President Joe Biden canceling of student loans and OLA-OLF statement on ongoing conflict in Oromia region, plus the U.S. State Department press release on the situation on renewed conflict. So I have some on reading and some on video, relevant video for today. So the renewed conflict I reported this morning as a breaking news. Now, you just reached United Nations, reached to the U.S. They are responding, which is good. That was the purpose of reporting as a breaking news. We reached out to White House. We reached out State Department, United Nations. Now everyone is talking about this, and which is a good thing to stop this bloodshed. So the Ethiopian government also blaming TPLF for breaking the cessation of hostilities and starting the war. That's obvious. They always do that. And also the Ethiopian government is claiming the shutting down of airplane coming into Ethiopian airspace through Sudan, which the government blames historical enemies of Ethiopia, but they didn't mention who are those historical enemies. And Sudan is silent on this report. Nothing coming out of Sudan on this claim, as far as I know. And Ethiopia is claiming the shooting down of this plane. But it's also, conflicting report on even from the government side. Redwan Hussein, the Prime Minister advisor, is tweeting about the downing of this plane in Mekelle while unloading weapons. The Ethiopian government military person is saying they shoot down the plane while it's crossing into Ethiopian airspace. So there is a credibility gap. There's a credibility gap, as we know. Prosperity Party officials are liars. We know from past experience. So this credibility gap tell us something that's about the truth of shooting down this plane. And there is no independent media to verify what they are claiming. Getachew Reda also rejected this report, this ridiculous report. So that's the situation on the media in relation to this renewed military offensive. And so far, residents in neighboring area in Amara also reporting heavy gun shelling, heavy noise of bombardment. So far, no report of injury, no report of deaths of that kind of nature. We don't have any report. I didn't see on any media about any casualty from this breaking news. Different medias are reporting. So that's a good thing for now, and it's not escalated yet. But the government of Ethiopia is warning TPLF, stop, and the international community put pressure on TPLF to come to the table. That's the situation so far. But the problem is the Ethiopian government, highly restrictive of international media. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what they are claiming. We don't know about casualties, and the same thing happening. What's going on in Wallagga and other Oromia regions, or other Oromia zones. We don't know because there is no independent media. The government media are not reporting. If they report, they don't tell us the truth. So the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres also acted on this one, and Anthony Blinken, U.S. State Department, also acted on this one. So I actually have a statement on that one, and one another statement or press release from OLF-OLA Command Center on the military conflict in Oromia region and all situation in Ethiopia. So let me read the press statement from U.S. State Department. Then I'll read OLA press release. Then I will watch together the relevant videos. Thank you again for joining me. So this is press statement from Anthony J. Blinken, Secretary of State. 5 months of a humanitarian truce in Ethiopia. We are concerned by reports of renewed hostilities in Ethiopia. We call on the government of Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, to redouble effort to advance talks to achieve a durable ceasefire without preconditions and ultimately bring a permanent end to the conflict. Over the past 5 months, the March 24 humanitarian truce declared by the government of Ethiopia and reciprocated by the TPLF reduced violence and cleared the way for delivery of humanitarian assistance in the Afar, Amara, and Tigray regions of Ethiopia. Respect for this truce over the past 5 months has saved countless lives and enabled assistance to reach tens of thousands. Recent provocation on the battlefield, bellicose rhetoric, and the lack of durable ceasefire now threaten this progress. They also delay the establishment of an inclusive political process to achieve progress towards common security and prosperity for all Ethiopians. A return to achieve conflict would result in widespread suffering, human rights abuses, and further economic hardships, while playing into the hands of those that seek to undermine Ethiopia's peace and security. We note the government of Ethiopia's establishment of negotiating team and its stated willingness to go to talks. We ask all parties to respect the provision of food and fuel by humanitarian actors and refrain from militarizing humanitarian relief and to work towards restoration of basic services for those in need. The United States remain fully committed to the unity, sovereignty, and the territorial integrity of Ethiopia, and six peace and stability in Ethiopia. We stand ready to work with all Ethiopians to navigate the full range of challenges the country faces, which include overcoming an historic drought and promoting regional security. The United States is the largest contributor of humanitarian assistance, reflecting our commitment to reach all regions and the people of Ethiopia in need. Last year, the United States provided nearly $1.2 billion in development and humanitarian support for the Ethiopian people, including not only northern Ethiopia, but every corner of the country in support of drought relief, food security, peace building, health, education, technology transfer, and training. So that is a press statement from U.S. State Department, and urging both parties, the federal government and the Tigray region, to de-escalate and start the peace talk to avoid bloodshed again in Ethiopia. So that's very important. We appreciate the United States for helping Ethiopians, whether humanitarian or in a development project, also in encouraging the parties to settle the conflict. I hope they will listen to it and act quickly so that no bloodshed happen. And those mostly children from poor family will die, and those who are living in the war zone will suffer the most. Abiy will not suffer, or prosperity officials will not impacted by this. They are safe. They are surrounded by security guards, intelligence guards, and their families are protected. They are not in the military zone. They are not in the army. They don't feel the pain. They don't feel the heat. So that's why they just making a rough decision on poor families, poor students from came from farming families, and minorities. They are the ones suffering. We have seen from different video Digital Wayane was broadcasting in the last time from captured soldiers. These young kids supposed to be in college, get education and help the country grow. But Abiy sent them to the war zone, and that's gonna happen again if the United States, the United Nations, and European Union, do not force him to stop, because his family is not suffering. All the Prosperity Party officials are not suffering in this conflict. Okay, thank you. And this is released on August 21st, 2022, OLF-OLA High Command. As I tried to present it yesterday, but due to the breaking news, I just left it for today. So just 2 pages. Let me read what it says. It describes what is happening in Oromia, what Abiy is doing, and what OLF is doing, and what is the impact on Oromos living in different Oromia zones. Oromo Liberation Front, Oromo Liberation Army High Command regarding the Abiy regime latest campaign in Oromia. This is press release. Since March 22nd, 2022, the Abiy regime has launched 2 consecutive military campaigns in Oromia to suppress the Oromo people's struggle for freedom, spearheaded by the Oromo Liberation Army (OLA). The first of these campaigns concluded on June 10, 2022, with the neutralization of several hundred of the regime's regular forces and the complete dismantlement of the regime's district militia structure in western, southern, and central Oromia. On June 14, 2022, the Oromo Liberation Army launched a 2-day special operation in Gambella, Gimbi, and Dambidolo to disrupt the regime's effort to lay the groundwork for the regime's impending second campaign. In response, the oppressing regime, facing increased pressure from both the international community and its own cadres to pursue alternative to military measures, closely orchestrated 2 heinous massacres of civilians in western Oromia, intending to frame the OLA and close the door to the possibility of negotiations. Following these measures, the regime launched its second campaign on June 23, 2022, using mainly the Ethiopian National Defense Force and the fighters from Amara regional states, employing both its ground force and air power in the form of drone strike and helicopter gunships. The regime attempted to dislodge our forces and capture OLA-administered areas. However, as has been the case before, the regime's force could not exact any noteworthy blow against the OLA. From June 23rd to August 12th, the regime's forces lost at least 1,005 fighters, with several hundred more defecting, deserting, or facing serious injuries. The regime has also intensified its crackdown on the civilian population with mass arrests, extrajudicial killings, and destruction of property in Oromia reaching unprecedented levels. In the period of between June 23rd and August 12th, the regimes illegally detained over 5,000 civilians without a warrant. At least 290 of those detained were extrajudicially killed by security forces, while many of the rest have faced severe torture, some to the point of permanent disability. Detaining civilians for ransom has become a commercial enterprise for the regime's security officials. Security forces often demand between 50,000 and 100,000 Ethiopian birr from the families of those detained, threatened to kill their detained relatives if they do not pay. The regime's brutal forces have also engaged in the burning of homes and grain stores, as well as the slaughter of cattle, sheep, and other livestock belonging to the civilians in areas where they have suffered military defeats. This has further aggravated the precaution humanitarian situation in Oromia, particularly in Guji, where a drought has already metamorphized into a famine that has claimed lives. Furthermore, regime officials in western and southern Oromia are engaging in the practice of withholding humanitarian aid from communities they believe have sympathized for the OLA. This has significantly worsened the situation of IDPs in East Walaga and the victims of famine in Guji. The regime's recent unsubstantiated claims regarding military victories against the OLA exposed its desperation and the refusal to contend with reality. The disinterest of the international community on issues pertaining to the Oromo people and the lack of any independent media coverage of the war on Oromia has given the regime a free hand to use its state media resources to promote its propaganda. As it hurtles toward complete disaster, the regime continues to distort reality in an effort to regain the confidence of its cadres and deceive the international community. The Abiy regime is the primary source of instability and suffering in the country, and the simple fact remains that its removal is inevitable and necessary for there to be a possibility of peace and dialogue. The people of Oromia and their neighbors have made it beyond clear that they will no longer tolerate dictatorship in any shape or form. The international community must end its policy of appeasement that has permitted Abiy's brutal regime to inflict pain and suffering at levels unseen in this country's recent history. They must understand that any attempt to solve this country's predicament that does not include guaranteeing the Oromo people's right to self-determination and right to genuine political representation will not be a lasting solution. Half-baked measures such as the reshuffling of the elite as we saw in 2018 or dialogue with no mechanism to hold participants accountable will only exacerbate an already tense situation. In fact, the regime-backed national dialogue platform is part and parcel of fueling the civil war by deceiving international partners into injecting foreign currency into the regime's coffers. Victory to the Oromo and all oppressed peoples. OLF-OLA High Command, August 21st, 2022. So that's a press release from OLF-OLA Command Center on the situation in Ethiopia, in Oromia, what Abiy is doing, and how the international community ignored the Oromo cases, and especially the international media. They are not talking about Oromos. Oromos are suffering. Oromos are losing properties, extrajudicial killing, mass arrest. All kind of atrocities are happening under Abiy Ahmed leadership in Oromia. Is in the magnitude never been seen before. I never seen the burning of houses and farmers' property. before, never seen. This is like punishing the mass and forcing or attempting to force them to surrender Abiy Ahmed's policy, and will not happen anyway. Will not happen, and so the international community should consider the concerns of Oromos, and OLA, OLF should be, included in dialogue or whatever the international community want to do with Ethiopia. Oromos are the majority. They have to have a great stake. If not, peace and security will not come to Ethiopia. If the government continue harassing, detaining, threatening, killing, burning the properties of Oromos, you will not have peace and stability in Ethiopia. Okay, so that's the reading statement. Now let's watch the videos I shared from African News, Al Jazeera, and other news outlets. Thank you.
The Ethiopian army announced Wednesday that it had shot down a plane loaded with weapons destined for the Tigray rebels, which had violated Ethiopian airspace after flying over Sudan. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres has given his reaction to the latest development.
I am deeply shocked and saddened by the news of the resumption of hostilities in Ethiopia. Ethiopians, Tigrayans, Amaras, Oromos, Afars have already suffered too much. My strong appeal is for an immediate cessation of hostilities and for the resumption of peace talks between the government and the TPLF, with, at the same time, the full guarantee of humanitarian access to people in need and the reestablishment of public services.
No information was given concerning the origin of the aircraft or the date on which it was shot down. Fighting resumed in border areas of the Tigray Region, with Tigrayan rebels and the federal government blaming each other for breaking a 5-month truce. The region is largely cut off from the rest of the country, and it is impossible to verify the claims of either side independently.
Factor in temperature and humidity,
and then subtract the wind speed.
Plus the drippage.
Our other top story, a big day for those with student loan debt.
President Biden announcing his long-awaited cancellation plan that will impact millions of Americans, as well as changes to the student loan program itself. Natalie Bomke here now with what borrowers need to know. Natalie.
First, patience. Everyone is flooding the website, but this plan is still in the early stages, and application to receive the relief isn't even available yet. President Biden announcing today his administration is canceling up to $10,000 of federal student loan debt for those making less than $125,000 a year, or households making less than $250,000. Borrowers who received Pell Grants would be eligible for up to $20,000 in student loan forgiveness. And the president is extending the temporary pause on loan repayment one more time through December.
The estimates from the Congressional Budget Office are that this is going to cost approximately $300 billion. And the question is, who pays for that, right? And it's pretty much the U.S. taxpayer who will foot the bill for this.
With midterm elections quickly approaching, some see the move as a way for Democrats to rally young voters. Some also believe it will make inflation worse. Individuals can sign up online to receive a notification for when they can apply for the relief. It is expected to be available before the end of the year. Corey and Don.
Okay, this is South Africa.
Runaway inflation, hundreds of thousands of jobs lost, and a sharp increase in the cost of living have brought thousands of South Africans onto the streets. They want the government to address a number of issues, from pay rises to a stable electricity supply.
In South Africa, things are not easy for us. Seriously, they're not easy. Hear our cry. Hear our cry, please. We are here. We are supposed to be teaching, but we are not teaching. We are here because things they're not good for us.
The poorly performing economy has been worsened by the knock-on effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. and inflation is at a 13-year high.
For the way forward is tapping into this anger that's definitely developing over prices, over pay, and for poorer people, over food. I work with a group called the Community Organising Working Group, which operates mainly in informal settlements. And the demand that they've come with here is simply to say food for all. Now, can you imagine that? How desperate that things are getting in South Africa?
Just yesterday, we have received another stat that speaks to unemployment rate in South Africa, which it mainly affects the youth. So hence we are here today. We want to hit a call to the government to say, can they consider relooking into other into these things of petrol hikes, the ratio of employment.
While the government has implemented an unemployment grant at $20 a month, it's simply not enough. And more than a third of the population is unemployed. Organizers had hoped for a nationwide shutdown to bring the economy to a halt. While a few thousand have come out to the streets, many others haven't. However, it would be difficult for the government to disregard union demands. The governing African National Congress is part of an alliance with the Congress of South African Trade Unions, one of the biggest workers' federations. Given the recent waning of support for the party, it can't afford to ignore workers' calls. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Pretoria.
Yeah, thank you, Al Jazeera and African News and Fox News Chicago. So that's people have courage to come out to express their frustration about high inflation and salary is not enough to support it in South Africa. I'm still waiting on Ethiopians to come out to denounce the leadership of Prosperity Party and the ongoing conflict in that country, whether the war, the renewed war on Tigray now, and the war going on in Oromia. Our people are very silent. They are suffering, just like South Africans, from high oil price and other inflation plus high unemployment. The young generation is suffering in Ethiopia. But due to probably security threat, these people are not courageous to come out and express their frustration about the living condition in Ethiopia, just like South Africans or Sudanese. They didn't use, that's their freedom. They have the right to express themselves. They have the right to express themselves about the living condition. The university professors, the university teachers are trying to do that, already gave warning to the government of Ethiopia, but Abiy Ahmed threatened them not to do, claiming it is not the right time to talk about raising and other demands, but they gave the government I think until next month, and we watching it. If the teachers act, the rest of the public will act, the students and the ordinary people who are suffering from this inflation. They will come out and act. They will come out and protest against the failed leadership of the Ethiopian government or Prosperity Party. The good thing is President Joe Biden cancellation of at least 10,000 plus 20,000 for Pell Grant is good. We appreciate Joe Biden for doing that, the Democratic leadership, but he didn't go far enough. Most Democrats, pushed him to cancel at least 50,000. At least 50,000. That will throw the burden away from these, Americans, so they can buy a house, so they can get married. buy a new car, whatever they want to do. This student loan is a big burden, well known, especially on a lower class citizens. Those who are making less. If you are making 500,000 or million, you don't care. You can easily pay. But if you are making, or if you are struggling to get a job, you will suffer from this student loan. So canceling this is a beginning, and we want Biden and the Democrat to do more, at least as Senator Elizabeth Warren and others suggested, 50,000. That will cut the burden and give the opportunity for Americans to live the American dream. So let me conclude. I also join United Nations head Antonio Guterres' frustration and concern about Ethiopia. Ethiopians suffer more than enough. Drought, hunger, continued violence, hate among each other, worst under Abiy Ahmed leadership. So that should be eliminated, and Ethiopians, they have to figure out how to love each other again, live together, and stop this failed leadership in that country. I don't know why the peace negotiation is delayed. It might have a solution. I don't think so, but if everyone is allowed to join to express the country's problem, what is Ethiopia is up to, what Ethiopians' problem. If truly openly discussed, the solution might come. But if you are leaving OLF outside the game, or TPLF out of the game, you cannot get peace and stability in that country. So if it's a national dialogue, it should include all Ethiopians, even those who are living outside Ethiopia, in the diaspora committee, for idea and a solution for that country, and how to manage all these global isolation, economic downturn, lack of leadership, all this, and this lack of justice, freedom of expression, journalist harassment, all kind of problems we have witnessed, we have seen under Abiy Ahmed. So there's a very, very bad situation in Ethiopia, and all are suffering. Amaras also suffering, Afar suffering, Oromo suffering, Tigrayans suffering, all, Gambellas, Somalians, all. Conflict, hate, war, all kind of problem in Ethiopia. So we need a change of leadership, and the people should come out and express their frustration, and they should demand a different leadership for that country, and to end this war, to end this bloody war everywhere, conflict, hate in that country. Thank you for joining me. I will come back again with any updates about this renewed attack, or any news, any good news, hopefully good news in the next round. Thank you for joining me. I always appreciate your presence. Please subscribe, share, like my videos. Thank you, and so long, everyone, and be safe.